my dear ones, our time together continues, and we continue to look at this thing called the collective we. And so what that means is we're focused now on this month, especially on the we rather than the me of our lives and living. And we're endeavoring to get a deeper understanding of what it is to be an amazing, important aspect in the collective consciousness of life, in that wonderful life-flowing grace and spirit. I am an individualized expression in it, as are you. And so now we're focused on the part we play within the collective. And for this to happen, again, the invitation is, of course, in this month dedicated to inclusion, action. The part we play in this is extremely important, but it's not going to be understood to any great degree if indeed we don't engage ourselves in daily examination, in the daily examination process of who I am and how I show up as the collective we. That's what we're called to do this week. Focus on that and the energy of that and the power of that and what it brings to life and living, to know I am part of the great collective. Because each one of us is an influencer. Every single one of us is an influencer, and as such, we effect the collective consciousness, the race mind. We influence it very, very much. Now, of course, each and every one of us is multifaceted. We are very diverse in ourselves, far less the collective. In ourselves, we are multifaceted. In ourselves, we are diverse. And it's difficult enough for myself as an individual to be able to contend with all of those multifacets of my being and all of the aspects attached to being a human being and at the same time a divine being. And that's a lifetime seeking, a lifetime's job. So I have to have a deeper sense of myself as an individualized expression of spirit before I can really affect the collective in an affirming and positive and life-giving way, life-supporting way. That is essential to me. Be still and know, we're told. Be still and know. That's to examine ourselves, to be still and know. And when I say examine ourselves, I mean listen to the inner intuitive self of ourselves and what it has to say to us, how it has to inform us, because it's always informing us, but we have to listen in order to hear. Now that is task enough alone, but alongside of that, I have to understand the diversity of life and the diversity of every individual and how that all works together. It's no small task, but that's what we're tasked with if we are to be part, a conscious part, an affirmative part of the one life, that life being God life, that life being all life, and that life being my life and your life right now. See, right now. So this thing called unity in diversity is not just a glib expression. It's not something we just throw out because it sounds good and I want to be part of this unity in diversity. But it's much bigger than that. I mean, it truly is. And you might ask the question, well, okay, if we're all one, You know, how can that be when everybody is so multifaceted and so diverse, and there's so much diversity across the board in life and living? How can that be? How can it be? What is the answer to that? I mean, we are so diverse. I mean, we're so diverse in gender, in language, in color, in nationality, in culture, in religion, in so many ways. We are so diverse. But that kind of diversity doesn't mean separate and apart. Not at all. That just means there are many ways to live life and living, and there are many paths that lead us to the one awareness and the one awakening and the one realization. That's all that means. That's all it means. And you know the answer to the question, how can we be one with so much diversity and so much that seems so different from myself? Well, you know the answer. The answer is that I am, and every individual on the planet is, and every aspect of life is an emanation of spirit. I am the individualized expression of the one. Not the many, the one. And as an individualized expression of the one, I am of its essence. I am of its nature. In the image and in the likeness of the one am I created, and so are you, and so is every other person on the planet and every living thing, according to its form. And that's how we are one. So there's no getting away from this. Like it or not, we all belong to each other. We are bound together. What binds us together? Well, when I was a little kid going to school, we learned a song that said, "Bind us together, Lord, bind us together, Lord, bind us together in love." That's the answer. We're bound together in love. Love for one another. Love for one another means love for all of life. Loving all of life in its diversity, in its multifacetedness. That's what that means. And there's no getting away from it. Now, Dr. Ernest Holmes always says that the greatest students and the greatest practitioners of science and mind and spirit are lovers, are lovers. He says you've got to love people to be effective in this practice. No ifs, ands, and buts. That's just how it is. Love is always the answer. Love is always the way. Love all the time is the answer, and nothing less than that will do. Love will do the deed, said the poet, for with love stony hearts will bleed. You see. So the examination of ourselves as the we has to do with how loving am I when I show up as the we, toward the we, participating in the collective. Now there's the collective and there's collectivity. The collective has to do with unity and oneness and harmony. Collectivity has to do with a bunch of people together just doing their own thing, going their own way, not much of connection. And many communities are that, collectivities, not communities. But you and I are called higher than that, into a higher way of living, which is a deeper way of living. Isn't it funny how the high and the deep, same thing, a more expanded, a more inclusive way of living. And science of mind and spirit is the practice of inclusivity. All are included. All are included. I wonder where we got that from. Well, this teaching rose up out of the teaching of the master teacher, Jesus. You know? He was the way shower. And what did he show us? He showed that as far as he was concerned, there wasn't any difference between any one of us. And so he befriended and he beheld and he mixed and mingled with the saint and the sinner, the leper and the healthy, the women of the night, and went to the best parties in town. He associated with and befriended the tax collectors, the Roman centurions, you name it, everybody and anybody was included in his friendship and his love and his response to help, whether it was a Samaritan who was hated by the Jews, the Samaritan woman, or the story of the Samaritan person who was robbed, etc., and so forth. He held these people up as examples to us. He held up the centurion, the hated Roman soldiers, the centurion, as the one he had never found greater faith in than that man in all of Israel. He included all, without exception, everybody was included. Nobody was given preferential treatment. Everybody to him was the image and likeness of the Father, as he called the one, the infinite intelligent being. Great example. Now, we're held to no less a standard than that. Or don't call yourself as having anything to do with Christianity, please. Because that's what it means to be a follower of the master teacher, Jesus. To love all, to show up as love, and to take care of the widow and the orphan, and the outcasts, and the downtrodden, and the poor, and the needy amongst us. Take care. The whole thing was about service. His whole life was a life of service. That's what his life is about. That's why he is the great way shore. And you and I are called to no less than that, if you and I want to be true to our essence, to our nature, to that Christed sense of ourselves, because all of us are born Christed, and like Jesus, we can become consciously Christed, which he did. All of us can become consciously Christed, and the way to that is through sacred service, including everybody in our purview, anybody that crosses our path, regardless of how they are, who they are, what they are, as the precious life form of the one itself, as the individualized expression, as the chosen of the one to be itself in human form, even if it is what you would call a derelict person, and there's no such thing, lying in the gutter with a brown paper bag beside them. That's not what they are. And yes, God shows up in the deepest of disguises, and only the ones who are awake enough can see that. So you and I are called to make this examination every day, just to be quiet, to be still, and see what intuitive intelligence and spirit within us wants to convey to us, wants us to hear. And no one gets out of this without being still and knowing. You won't get out of the human condition without being still to know. What does the divine want of each and every one of us? Well, people have been asking that question since time began, the prophets included. Is it music, said the prophet Amos, and the response was, I will not listen to your noisy sounds. I will not listen to the melodies of your lyres. Well, is it prayer, asks Isaiah. Well, when you wave your hands in the air, I will turn away. I will turn away, is the answer. Well, is it sacrifice? asks Samuel. I do not desire your empty sacrifices and your burnt offerings. I desire that you follow the voice of the law, the voice of the Lord. That was the answer. What would Jesus say, as we're always asked? Jesus would say that the divine design for each and every one of us is, as I've already stated. Love one another. Be one, as the Father and I are one. Love one another with all of those ways to be able to become one in sacred service. That would be the answer. And it states everywhere in the scriptures, all of the scriptures, in all things, give thanks. In all things, give thanks. I love the story, the Chinese story of the man who had a horse and a plow. And one day the horse ran away. And his neighbors commiserated. They said, sorry about your bad luck. He says, bad luck, good luck, who knows? Well, later, the horse came back with some wild horses accompanying it. And then the neighbor said, oh, isn't that great news? Good luck is yours today. Bad luck, good luck, who knows? And then the son is training the horses, breaking them in. One of them throws him and he breaks his leg, and the neighbors commiserate, of course, because every neighbor loves to commiserate, it seems. Bad luck, good luck, who knows? A few weeks after that, along comes the military, and they want to conscript all the youths who are available. They look at the son and they say, don't want him. Got a broken foot, no good. The neighbors are delighted and say, oh, your son got saved from that. Very good luck to you. Oh, good luck, bad luck, who knows? You see, the moral of the story is that very often what seems to be not something that's for your good turns out to be quite the opposite. And that is why we can give thanks. Every time, it doesn't matter, anything happens. And if it's not a good thing, you can say, well, wasn't expecting it, but I'm knowing good comes out of this. Good comes out of this. My dear ones, we can have that kind of attitude too. We can be open and full of awe and wonder at life and the mysterious ways life works, because life is a mystery unfolding. No kidding. Absolutely. Your life is, my life is, all life is. It's a mystery unfolding, but this is what I do know for sure, that it's always evolving in a forward movement, no matter what it looks like. We're always progressing some way or another. Yeah, it may look like we're taking 2 steps, forward and 4 backwards, but that's only to spring forward right ahead. So it's a trust thing, isn't it? And we are so suspicious of each other, especially if we don't look alike or we don't have anything that seems to be in common with ourselves. Well, we're suspicious about that. Suspicious leads to non-trust, and non-trust can lead even to hatred eventually. And this is not the way we're meant to be at all. And if anybody thinks in self-righteousness that they know better, everyone in that situation gets a rude awakening sooner or later. So it's never okay to discard someone because of self-righteousness or because you think they're wrong in some way, they're not right in some way, and you are. So we don't get away with dismissing each other because they're not made in our image and likeness. They're not to our likeness. So they have to be cast out, excluded. That's tribalism. And we're done with tribalism. That belongs to the last centuries. It doesn't belong to this century. We need to stop being tribal now and get with the program. If you are a serious spiritual being and you're seriously desiring of realizing yourself, then you know that nonsense must cease and desist, and that we are indeed working together as a diverse and wonderful, awesome variety of spirit's expressions in form toward the same thing. And everybody is included in the heavenly banquet. Everybody is included. And all of us have that opportunity to be influencers in a wonderful, wonderful way. And not waste our time on pettiness and smallness and staying in that little box of ours because we think our box is better than any other box out there. It's not. No box is good. We're all in one great big circle of life, and everybody's included. Everyone is included. So, my dear ones, this week our work is really cut out for us. It truly is. And we've got to do the work or we're not going to get there. Because this is an awesome time of opportunity for all of us to be able to bring it on home and make the difference and mend and fix and heal whatever needs to be mended, fixed, and healed within ourselves and then within our world. I want to leave you with this lovely thought that supports our teaching by Thomas Merton. And he was a wonderful monk, mystic, philosopher, theologian, and amazing energy on this plane. And his influence still prevails. And he says, there it is. He says, the beginning of love is the will to let those who love be perfectly themselves. The resolution not to twist them to fit our own image. If in loving them, we do not love what they are, but only that potential likeness to ourselves, then we do not love them. We only love the reflection of ourselves we find in them. And so if we can't see ourselves in others, we think they're different and they don't belong. Rubbish. We all belong to each other. It's a beautiful thing. And together, you and I can work miracles, and great good can be the result because each one of us is that point of light and power through which the infinite radiates all its magnificence. And you and I have the power to release it because we are the outlets to the inlet of all of that amazing grace. That's who you are and no less. And so it is.